So, diving into the RTLO, for anyone that's been living under a rock that's not aware of it, just give us a rundown of what this new proposed ordinance in Cook County is.
So if you've been around real estate, especially in Chicago for a while, you understand that there's that Chicago RTLO. Now what we're seeing is an expansion of that. Now Cook County, the Cook County Board, that government body, wants to have their own. And it was a shock for a lot of us when they first proposed it. Everyone was used to, it was only in Chicago and then in a couple suburbs. Evanston has their own. There's a couple individual towns that have their own. But we had sort of enjoyed that, it's pretty much limited to just Chicago. But now Cook County wants to get involved. And there was a bit of a, for lack of a better term, a sticker shock, because they went beyond in some portions what they wanted to regulate with their RTO, and which immediately rose up red flags that, okay, well, if they pass theirs, then Chicago is going to follow suit and want theirs to be the exact same. And it really messed us up. Well, it messed me up, because a lot of the tips that I give my clients, it goes directly against it. And it messed me up. I'm a big fan of, look, let's just not do security deposit. Let's just take a move-in fee. And that Cook County ordinance seeks to do away with that. That you don't take a move-in fee as opposed to security deposit. It essentially forces you to take the security deposit, which I personally hate. I hate forcing the clients to have to take security deposit, because then once you do that, it really exposes you to that litigation. It's essentially forcing the landlord to expose themselves to potential tenant litigation. I'm a big fan of, let's avoid the courts as much as possible. I think most things, I want to treat, find a fair resolution to things, because the only person really at the end of the day that's making money off of the litigation is me. It doesn't serve my clients at all to do that. So I'd rather put the money to use to investments and not burn up all of your money in the court system.
What are some of the other points that exceeded kind of what the Chicago ordinance had?
So they're limiting the move-in fees. You have to, essentially saying you have to take a security deposit. The security deposit, I don't know why they thought that this was okay. The security deposit, it's only supposed to be 1.5 months of the amount of the rent. So, if you've ever done, real high-end rentals, if you're doing multi-million-dollar house and you're renting it for, $10, $15, $20,000, you might want a large security deposit, because if you do damage to a $2 million house, it could be very expensive to fix it. So for that, you can only take 1.5 months security deposit. On top of that, they say 1.5. In my eyes, I feel like it's going to end up de facto being 1 month, because the tenant has the option to pay the 1 month security deposit. Anything on top of 1 month security deposit, they can break down over 6 payments. So now you as the landlord have to go through the whole, dog and pony show of the security deposit. You got to make sure it's written on the lease, where the bank is, where you're depositing it at, all that, keep track of the interest, do all that kind of stuff for the initial payment. And now you have to do that every month for 6 months. So now you have that responsibility of every time that you have to collect now these 6 equal payments of security deposit, you have to make sure you're getting it as a separate check. Where's it being deposited? Calculate the interest on it. You got to go through all that. And I feel like some of the landlords are just going to say, I don't want to deal. You're just exposing me more to litigation, more to if 1 month I, slip up. And like the Chicago one, there's an automatic provision, 2 months penalty on there, and plus attorney's fees. So you better believe there's going to be attorneys out there that are going to be looking to recruit tenants. If anything goes wrong, forget if the tenant, breaks everything. If the tenant, makes a whole mess of the building, if they find the right attorney, they come in and, they're trying to find anything you did wrong with those security deposits and get their 2 months and their attorney's fees and all that slapped on there. So I feel like the landlords in response are just going to say, look, we're just going to do 1 month, because I don't want to have to keep track of all the 6 months collecting these payments.
So you have the risk too of now you have to, one of the benefits of getting, before you hand over keys, is getting all the money up front.
Yeah.
But so now you're saying that anything over a month's rent, if they're extending it over 6 months, you now have to be responsible for it. You have to collect it then too. So it's like another task just to collect that, and the risk of
Yes.
them not paying that at that point.
Yes, this weird gap. They created this weird, awkward gap where you as the landlord can charge up to 1.5 months security deposit, but the tenant can elect to say, I'm only going to give you 1 month now, and can break it up into up to 6 equal payments for that security deposit. So you end up with this gap where you're chasing them for the security deposit, which is, that in itself is fine. My concern is it creates a trap almost, where if you slip up 1 month where you don't give them the proper notices and calculate the interest and where's it be deposited and all that kind of stuff, now you've exposed yourself.